Connie Lingus says, immemorial cloth gloves of the Sage WTS BIS, plus 25 focus light gloves with freedom, shirking fortification, and resilient. Ubto says, X invite. Slingfate says, servers going down soon? I live in Central so I'm really not sure. Kate Yana says, so lame. Pete Blackwald says, FFS any of his veins. Ruafus says, anyone streaming War in Cutlass? Firisi UV Lottie says, who is streaming a war? Ruafus says, anyone streaming War? Entries 3 says, Harvester shirt Lumberjack shirt WTS. Dave Psychobliant says, WTS Major Angry Earth Combat Trophy 23k. 4k cheaper than off. Dark Competent says, WTS Orichalcum Warhammer of the Century for the low PM offers 50kb/up. Fiber says, WTS Schematic, Gold and Steel Storage Chest 300k. Entries 3 says, Harvester shirt Lumberjack shirt WTS. Ironside 666 says, Dryad Great Axe of the Soldier Defiled Blunderbuss of the Spellsword WTS Chief. Chaos 50 says, need 2 more for the Frost Guy in Brightwood. Tillicam 50 says, anyone steaming the CK War? Vasco says, invite for boss in Brightwood. Rayan 28 says, Golden Scarab WTS X10. Blank 1993 says, Ancient Warhammer of the Barbarian WTS. Killicam 50 says, anyone streaming the CK War? Staff Upgurt says, Ancient Helm of the Soldier Old Hammer of the Soldier WTS make offer. Staff Upgurt says, Defiled Blunderbuss of the Soldier WTS X2 play. Yak the Legend says, we could see. Staff Upgurt says, frozen tip of the iceberg of the scholar 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 WTS in 3 years. Songal Zarak says, WKWK. Eagla says, Shadewalker leggings of the century Shadewalker leggings of the century WTSG. Handmade Mike says, do perks on armor stack. Mine says, infused pristine opal ring of the scholar WTS. Burberry says, WTS reinforced pristine onyx ring of the century 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 reinforced pristine onyx ring of the soldier. Burberry says, Shadewalker mask of the sage. Actually Andrew says, anybody streaming the war in Cutlass? You defeated Strat in combat. Actually Andrew says, I need that war VOD. Soza 1 says, fellows of Windsward. Upright bass sheet music. Page 1/1 WTS. Actually Andrew says, PLS. Pestilence says, you guys doing WT? You defeated Schmitty Orban in combat. P70 says, basically Lux Trophy WTS. Rayan 28 says, Golden Scarab X10 Ezerdium X86 Runic Leather X41 WTS. Dave Psychobliant says, WTS Major Angry Earth Combat Trophy. Yuzin says, many do, some do not. Tiny Menden says, corrupted musket of the Ranger WTS. W says, WTB steel blunderbuss charms need 3. Uncle Deadly 97 says, arboreal scout helm of the night, arboreal corrupted breastplate of the barbarian, arboreal breech watcher, leather gloves of the soldier, arboreal rebler pants of the night, arboreal sturgeon style shingars of the century. Dave Psychobliat says, WTS Major Angry Earth Combat Trophy DMO. Banksat says, WTS Void Gauntlet Focus with Perk Keen / Bless / Refreshing Move, Amulet Int with Divine / Refreshing Evasion Health PM. Michael Jensen says, do you no longer get 10x gold on your daily faction quest bonuses? Sura says, infused leather hat of the century, anyone want this dumb thing? Says, what's another good perk to put with Angry Earth? Black Drac says, Ancient Mandible WTS 20k. Q Orani says, are you offering or looking for offers? Baked Hawk says, no. Ijula says, Shade Walker Legends of the Century WTSC /0100k. Black Drac says, Ancient Mandible WTS 20k. Mecho says, what class do you play as? Ijula says, WTB Major Loot Luck 40k. Q Orani says, I just take it since I need stats but I'm still leveling dot. You defeated heads and are in combat. Edward Boomhead says, refreshing plus WEP skill. Red Tetsuo says, DPS. Mecho says, whichever weapon you DPS with. Bacon Hawk says. CKTF says, kill the low-key fanboy me again. Ben Volpus says, any stream for Cutlass? Stinky Sharkman says, Blizzard's Fury of the Ranger, Blizzard's Fury of the Ranger, Blizzard's Fury of the Ranger WTS. Black Drac says, Ancient Mandible WTS 20k. Black Drac says, Ancient Mandible WTS 20k. Ape Chief says, WTB Pattern, Night Veil Life Staff 3k. Mayor W says, WTB Steel Blunderbuss Charms need 3. Abandoned Pride says, WTB int / con ring with fire DMG, invigorated, hardy PM. CKTF says, big ol' musket are on my ass. Serdildu says, any wall runs. Ape Chief says, WTS Orange Altum Great Axe of the Soldier BMO. Banksat says, WTS Void Gauntlet Focus with Perk Keen / Bless / Refreshing Move, Amulet Int with Divine / Refreshing Evasion Health PM. WW Owner says, colorful Kraken chaps of the century WTS. MagAG says, you know you could just link that rather than type all that. ILLE Plays Games says, plans of the propane of the fighter holding together ammo. Gascard says, WTS stack deck. Mistoff 300 says, Raleigh and Ferry Storage. Psychopliant says, WTS Major Angry Earth Combat Trophy DMO. DIO2564 says, Blue Glass of Punishing Local X3 WTS UPP. Nejan says, WTS Old Your Ring of the Breeze. Mr. Halfi says, Fellows of Windsworth. Mandolin Sheet Music. Page 1/1 WTS. Gugu Panja says, WTS Roundabout Pattern. Says, Iron with Bow of the Ranger, 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 WTS GP. Lullaby says, WTS Old Ear Ring of the Sage, Old Ear Ring of the Soldier, Old Ear Ring of the Scholar, Old Ear Ring of the Sage, Old Ear Ring of the Knight. Bastion Cutlass East is under attack. Crypto says, can I join your group? Beto Argento says, Raider Leatherhat WTS BMO. Not based off of proof. Wee says, no who's using clear out. Farisi UD Lottie says, who's streaming CK War. Crypto says, it is based off of how many PPL are here. Crypto says, visit me. Mayor W says, WTB Steel Blunderbuss Charms need 3. Archie Blade says, www. Lullaby says, WTS Profane Hat of the Barbarian Defiled Cloth Pants of the Barbarian Arcade Boots of the Scholar Defiled Helm of the Sentry Profane Hat of the Spellsword Oak Regent Greaves of the Sentry. D-Sin says, let me pat. Gozu says, Ancient Mandible WTS. Kaz21 says, Recipe, Desert Sunrise Recipe, Desert Sunrise WTS 32 for all. Banksat says, WTS Void Gauntlet Focus with Perk Keen / Bless / Refreshing Move, Amulet into Line / Refreshing Evasion Help PM. Ape Chief says, WTV Pattern, Night Veil Life Staff 3K. It's Gray says, 20s. Gozu says, Armorous Turtle 4K WTS. Jimothy Posley says, X-Pool. Mag AG says, Elon Musk. The Slayer Prot says, WTS Arcade Breastplate of the Night Desecrated Cloth Gloves of the Soldier Profane Pants of the Brigand. says, defiled cloth shoes of the Ranger, corrupted cloth shirt of the Cleric, profane coat of the Warden, WTS. You defeated J Copy in combat. Manvan McBeasy says, anyone know if Arcana Buff is up anywhere? Stemp says, Hand of Filth of the Century, WTS BMO. Mistoph 300 says, not ESF or WW, sad face. Eternal Nightman says, any wallers. ILLE Plays Games says, Lance of the Profane of the Fighter holding together PMO. Lord McNugget says, defiled greatsword of the soldier. Guardian ODST says, not in BS nor MD. It's Gray says, 20s. You defeated I Play Nakut in combat. Angela says, Shadewalker leggings of the Century, WTS current offer 120k. The Undead says, profane shirt of the Fat Lemage, defiled void gauntlet of the Scholar, WTS. Alexandria says, WTS ancient blunderbuss of the Scholar, ancient greaves of the Soldier, defiled boots of the Sage BMO. Stuntum says, ancient void gauntlet of the Scholar, Orichalcum void gauntlet of the Scholar, Rusher void gauntlet, Orichalcum ice gauntlet of the Scholar, Orichalcum ice gauntlet of the Scholar, Orichalcum ice gauntlet of the Scholar, WTS. Ricard the Brad says, so what's new in this game? Bento Argento says, cloth pants of the Nomad, WTS Chief. Ricard the Brad says, like what do I do if I haven't played since the first month? Ricard the Brad says, I have the same shitty quests and no direction. Sir Bug says, profane pants of the Nomad, profane shirt of the Monk, WTS. Ricard the Brad says, PLS. LYNZTH says, isn't server going down soon? Chafe says, Skitter Pants, WTS. Ricard the Brad says, hello. Two Rocks says, at Ricard the Brad play the game. Matt AG says, depends what level are you. Ricard the Brad says, how? Two Rocks says, by reading. Ricard the Brad says, you bums. Black Drac says, ancient mandible, WTS X238k. Matt AG says, if still low level, highly recommend restarting because the new player experience is now very good and fast. Black Drac says, ancient mandible, WTS X238k. Ricard the Brad says, thank you. Mac AG says, I did a fresh tweet and man, it is excellent now. Mistoph 300 says, ill by wire. You defeated Captain Swishers in combat. Demon Arts says, Devil Angel plus underscore equals. Questlove says, wait, slightly cracked looking different. GK says, Squirming Vines Golden Scarab X7 WTS. Yakum Wong says, this game is horrible. GK says, Golden Scarab Squirming Vines WTS. Yakum Wong says, how do y'all play this still? Hanblatsinki says, Defiled Warhammer of the Night WTS. Hanblatsinki says, Pirate Jewel Box Flintlock Pistols WTS. Gashark says, WTS Stack Deck. Curtin says, you log in just to say that more. Rabbit Games says, super low effort troll. Yakum Wong says, I'm trying to play. Wisdom says, Immemorial Cloth Gloves of the Druid WTS. Yakum Wong says, but it's just so bad. Zetsubu says, WTS 6K Shard plus Codex Tempest plus loot last spot left. ETA 10 minutes. Curtin says, asterisk your. Bukto says, you look good BTW. Mistop 300 says, KK Smelter Smock Pattern, Weaving Clothing Pattern, Woodworking Clothing Pattern, Stone Cutting Clothing WQTS any piece TP for you. Bukto says, your chart. Alexandria says, X-Pools. Ejala says, Shadewalker Leggings of the Century WTS. Bane Galato says, Defiled Cloth Shoes of the Ranger WTS. Nemesis Valencia says, Frostbitten Mid is this good? Manban McBeasy says, THX for looking guys. Billy the Wasp says, Billy the Wasp entertains by juggling gleamites. Desdemonarch says, at Nemesis Valencia good. Garostin says, WTS 6K Shard Tempest's Heart plus 6 chest plus Codex 2 spot left 15 minutes EDA DM for price. Civil Leak says, WTS 6K Shard Temp available 2 spot EDA 15 MNT DM for price. Questlove says, Primeval Pristine Diamond Ring of the Century WTS. The Undead says, Profane Shirt of the Batlemage Defiled Void Gauntlet of the Scholar WTS. Mistop 300 says, Ancient Alien Theorists, say. You defeated Capawaya in combat. Fantastic Baby says, M10 depths need 3 DPS and 1 tank check GF or PM. The Slayer Prot says, WTS Archaic Breastplate of the Night Desecrated Cloth Gloves of the Soldier Profane Pants of the Brigand. Yanja Galax says, WTS 6K Shard plus Codex plus Loot Tempest. 3 spot left EDA 15 minutes. Jair 1972 says, hello. Wooby says, hey Thrig. EBGL says, I'm just chilling out in Yodi land pouring up and I get severely faded than a hoe. Off of this beverage I was obliterated and sent straight to Muddington Pack City FR took some trips to Penjamin City. EBGL says, I'm just chilling out in Yodi land pouring up and I get severely faded than a hoe. Off of this beverage I was obliterated and sent straight to Muddington Pack City FR took some trips to Penjamin City. Mistop 300 says, pattern, Dryad's Hatchet WTS 50k. Q Orani says, did they do a revamp on the story at some point? I came back after a long break and this main story isn't what I remember. Chief Meep says, Chief Meep sits. Methuselah says, there's a special place in hell reserved for people that skin the mobs you killed. Q Orani says, asterisk is not what I remember. Apparently there's some weird profanity filter. Mistop 300 says, K Jane was fucking pifos ank Joas Nalt J. QZ Imasaki says, QZ Imasaki rolls a 6. Black Drac says, Ancient Mandible WTS 18,500. QZ Imasaki says, get off. QZ Imasaki says, I won. QZ Imasaki says, go B. Black Drac says, Ancient Mandible WTS 18,500. Chief Meep says, long time no see XD. Bugto says, what Yuldling? Gaskarth says, WTS Stack Deck. Kyuzi Imasaki says, I want the role. Kyuzi Imasaki says, go B. Kyuzi Imasaki says, 1. Methuselah says, yes they changed the story. Chief Meep says, I don't know, I think they wouldn't like me if I did that XD. Kyuzi Imasaki says, okay let's go again. Mutilator says, Thorn. Q Orani says, ah, okay that makes sense. Methuselah says, added in quests and stuff. Kyuzi Imasaki says, Kyuzi Imasaki rolls a 2. Mistoph 300 says, I report every one of them. Banksat says, WTS Void Gauntlet focus with perk keen / bless / refreshing move, amulet int with divine / refreshing evasion health PM. Kyuzi Imasaki says, okay I win. Exec says, how you open GF. Bone Crow says, what a loser. Wee says, my ice walls are showing up late. Q Orani says, I recalled most of the main story having massive EXP grinds between most quests. Chief Meep says, Chief Meep sits. Imink says, infused silk robe shoes of the century, infused silk robe shoes of the century, infused silk robe shoes of the century WTS. Imink says, old amulet of the barbarian WTS. Mr. History says, books wall. Bastion Cutlass Keys has been claimed by marauders. Mr. History says, X wall. Susie says, arcade hat of the Ranger WTS. Nemesis Valencia says, Rapier of the Ranger WTS. You defeated KPY in combat. Reteve says, LF quick run. Armine, tank, DPS, heals. PM me. Vane Galato says, dreadful knell of the warden. DDN and DD says, old earring of the druid cell. DDN and DD says, old earring of the druid WTS. Philly the Wasp says, Philly the Wasp entertains by juggling gleamites. Wildebeeson says, sorry got DC. Zetsubu says, WTS 6k shard plus Codex Tempest plus loot last spot left. ETA last boss. Ejula says, Shadewalker leggings of the century, Shadewalker leggings of the century, Shadewalker leggings of the century WTS. Mistoph 300 says, smelter smock pattern, weaving clothing pattern, woodworking clothing pattern, stone cutting clothing. Who needs these pieces? I'm 0/22 in trade chat and don't need M. Sad face. Alexandria says, WTS ancient blunderbuss of the scholar, ancient greaves of the soldier, defiled boots of the sage BMO. Nemesis Valencia says, polished marble storage chest WTS 5,5k. Saudi Losage says, WTB, Dex, refreshing plus refreshing toast plus nimble earring. ENTA Kaji 3 says, colorful Kraken chaps of the century WTS BMO. Stormy June says, primeval greaves of the cavalier WTS BMO. Vento Argento says, cloth pants of the nomad WTS cheap. Macazerton says, major logging gathering trophy WTS X3 take all 5k. Banksat says, WTS void gauntlet focus with perk keen / bless / refreshing move, amulet int with divine / refreshing evasion health PM. Q Orani says, also dumb because I haven't played in a while. I forget, are there mounts in this game? Honeydew says, coming in future. You defeated X and R in combat. Saints L says, old earring of the scholar, any bruiser needed. Young Squanto says, anyone playing New World on an Alienware M173070 GPU with i7-10870H? I'm only running 60 FPS and I've done everything except enable XMP, but not sure if I can. Nerds. Help me out. Get me the FPS. Banksat says, WTS void gauntlet focus with perk keen / bless / refreshing move, amulet int with divine / refreshing evasion health PM void gauntlet of the sage, old amulet of the scholar. EBGL says, at Young Squanto Yemi. Geonaria says, Geonaria skips along. Juhga no me try says, uncap your FPS. Young Squanto says, what's your FPS? Dillal V2 says, Dillal V2 dances a shruggy dance. Gionaria says, Gionaria skips along. Treeman says, soup of the day. Upright bass sheet music. Page 1/3. Juhga no me try says, or turn off BSYNC. Zetsubu says, WTS 6K shard plus Codex Tempest plus loot last spot left. ETA last boss. Dillal V2 says, Dillal V2 dances a shruggy dance. Crackpot 1989 says, X wall. BooML says, WTS 6K shard M10 Tempest 2 spot left last boss. Young Squanto says, it's off and I do have uncapped. Superstar Joe says, sit down. EBGL says, Fadet Thanaho 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 Fadet Thanaho. EBGL says, Fadet Thanaho 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 Fadet Thanaho. EBGL says, Fadet Thanaho 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 Fadet Thanaho. Uncle Creamy says, GGCK. Chief Meep says, GGCK. Vsin says, GGCK. Bane0F Death says, GGCK. Ejala says, GGS. Pay2 Justin says, GGS Soul. This sounds like Die says, GGSCK. Joni Tsunamel says, GGCK. Merlin Pelletier says, GG Soldier. Lord Buckethead says, GGCK. Master Bork says, GGSCK. Oda says, GGS. Tonskie says, WTS Old Amulet of the Druid. CKTF says, GG.